Last time on Almost Worked, a man spent 20 years trying to prove the ground under your feet was moving, and died on the ice before a single person believed him. Being right wasn't enough. This time, I want to flip that completely. This is a man who was totally right about something that is statistically sitting in your kitchen right now. And he had no idea, no theory, no 20-year fight, no plan at all. Just a guy standing in front of a machine built to win a war when the candy bar in his pocket quietly started to melt. He was standing inside an invisible being, one strong enough to cook food from the inside. He couldn't feel a thing. So he did the only sensible thing a curious man could do. He went and found an egg. There is a machine in more than 9 out of 10 kitchens on Earth. Nobody set out to invent it. It exists because one man refused to throw away a ruined snack. To understand the accident, you have to understand the machine. It's 1945. The Second World War is ending, and its single most important invisible weapon wasn't a bomb. It was radar. The power to see planes and ships in the dark, through cloud, from miles away. At the heart of every radar set sat a strange little vacuum tube called a magnetron. Feed it power, and it pours out a flood of microwaves, invisible energy, that bounce off distant objects and come racing back. That's how you spot a bomber you can't see. Building radar mattered so much that during the war, it was treated as second only to the atomic bomb. And the man running the tubes at a company called Raytheon was about the unlikeliest genius you could invent. His name was Percy Spencer. Orphaned twice as a boy. Left school around the 5th grade. No degree, no formal physics. He'd taught himself everything by taking things apart. A colleague later nailed it. An educated scientist knows all the things that can't be done. Percy didn't know what couldn't be done, so he kept doing it. When Britain couldn't build magnetrons fast enough, he redesigned the whole process and pushed production from a trickle to thousands a day. So hold that picture. A self-taught tinkerer, alone in a room full of the most advanced war machines on the planet. Now, what does any of that have to do with your leftovers? One ordinary day in 1945, Spencer was standing right next to a running magnetron, and he noticed something was wrong. The candy bar in his pocket, by most accounts a payday, chocolate and peanuts, had turned to mush. Now, plenty of engineers had stood in that same room. Some had probably felt a little warmth and thought nothing of it. Spencer felt his snack dissolve against his leg and asked the one question that changes everything. Why? Here's the eerie part. The beam had passed straight through his clothes and heated the candy from the inside, the exact way it would heat a bowl of soup. He was standing inside a field strong enough to melt chocolate against his own body, and he never felt it happen. There's an old line: chance favors the prepared mind. A ruined candy bar is just a mess. Unless you happen to be the one person in the building who spent his whole life asking how invisible energy moves. So he tested it. The next day, he brought popcorn kernels and held them near the tube. They burst all over the lab. The first popcorn ever cooked by a microwave. If you've ever made microwave popcorn, you have literally rerun his experiment. Then he got ambitious. He put an egg in a kettle and aimed the magnetron right at it. A colleague leaned in for a closer look. The egg cooked so fast, from the inside out, that the Pressure blew it apart, right into the co-worker's face. Nobody was hurt. But the mess settled it. This beam didn't warm food from the outside, like a fire or an oven. It shook the water inside the food and cooked it from in seconds. Nothing had ever done that before. An accident had just become a discovery. Raytheon, a weapons company, suddenly realized it might sell its war tubes as kitchen equipment. It filed a patent that same year. In 1947, the first microwave oven went on sale. They called it the radar range because it cooked with the same tubes that ran military radar. It was a monster, nearly 6 feet tall, around 750 pounds, heavier than a piano, priced like a car. Nobody wanted a car-priced, piano-sized radiation box in their kitchen. It was too big, too costly, and frankly, too frightening. So for years, it didn't go into homes at all. It went into trains, ocean liners, and restaurant kitchens. It would take another 20 years of shrinking and cheapening before a version small enough to sit on a countertop finally arrived. The accident took 2 decades to reach the place it was always going to end up. And reach it did. Today, more than 90% of homes in the United States have a microwave. By some surveys, 96. When Americans were asked which appliance they'd least want to live without, only one thing beat it. The car. Sit with that. A device born inside a weapon of war, a machine designed to find enemy bombers, is now the thing you used to reheat last night's noodles. Dorm rooms, break rooms, gas stations, almost every kitchen you will ever walk into. And nobody meant to make it. There was no inventor with a dream of feeding busy families, no vision, no plan. There was a man, a war machine, and a melted candy bar. That is the entire origin story. The most common appliance on the planet is, start to finish, an accident. Which brings us to the part this channel can never resist. For discovering microwave cooking, for the machine now humming in 1 billion kitchens, Percy Spencer got Raytheon's standard reward for its inventors, a $2 bonus. $2. He didn't die ridiculed on the ice like the last man in this series. His story isn't a tragedy. He just quietly handed the world one of its most useful objects and walked away with $2 and a handshake. Here's the thing that ties this to every other story we tell. Usually on this channel, the tragedy is that someone was right too early, and the world wasn't ready for it. Wegener, Semmelweis. Right. And punished for being right. This one is the mirror image. This time, the world wasn't looking. And one man was. The difference between a wrecked candy bar and a machine in 9 out of 10 kitchens wasn't genius or luck or a war. All of those were just sitting there in the room. The difference was a single stubborn question a self-taught man refused to walk past. Why? Sometimes that's the whole thing. Not being right for 20 years. Just being curious. For one afternoon, Percy Spencer handed the world a machine and got $2. Next time, a man hands the world something even bigger. And it costs him everything. Roll the clock back. A soldier comes home from the Civil War with a wound that never really heals, and a morphine addiction he cannot break. Desperate to cure himself, he mixes his own medicine. A tonic he's certain will finally set him free. It doesn't. He dies broke and still hooked, selling off his little recipe for pocket change just to get by. But that failed cure becomes the most famous drink on earth, and the medicine he built to escape one drug quietly contained another. That's next. on almost worked.